Hello Enchanted Ones, and welcome back. Today I will be giving you tips and ideas to help embrace the winter season, a season that is so beautiful in its own ways, and if we are open to accepting the season's rhythm, it can guide us the way forward. So sit back, relax, and keep on watching. Hello Enchanted Ones, and Happy New Year. I hope you had a lovely holiday and I hope you're having a good January so far. So today you've joined me in the woods because it is the first day in about 2 weeks that the sun is out. These last 2 weeks without the sun have been very, very challenging. So I'm here soaking up vitamin D and I'm very excited that the sun is finally out. But 90% of the time in England, the sun is behind the clouds and it's quite rainy. Not that that's a bad thing, but in winter especially, it is challenging. There are a lot of days where you don't see the sun, and especially because it's quite dark and there's no festivities or anything like that, it's just hard. And basically it's just taught me over the years that January should be a month where we rest, where we embrace the fact that it is hard and just look within and embrace our own needs and what we need to kind of get through. And I think that's the main thing in winter. When we connect ourselves to nature and when we look at nature this time of year, we see bare trees, we see animals in hibernation. I only need to look at my cat to realise that it's hibernation mode. He's sleeping like 17 hours of the day. But also my tortoise, he is in hibernation and will be until April, when the spring and the energy of the spring vibrates higher. I think that is something that I find the new goals to myself always work best in the spring when the energy gets higher. So today I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to show you things that are good for this time of year if you're not the kind of person that wants to set a goal. For me this year, I'm embracing the inside, and that doesn't mean inside my home, it means inside myself, working on my brain, working on who I am, and just making sure my needs are satisfied so I can be happy. And that is the main thing for me. So that really is the first step I've taken this winter so far, and it all started the other morning. There are certain rituals I do every day in winter to keep myself happy on the inside. I love sunlights and vitamin D to help deal with cloudy, rainy days with not so much sun, and very simple drinks such as hot water to cleanse and detoxify my body. But also looking within myself for answers on what I need by working with my intuition, the third eye chakra. As in doubt, it always knows what I need, as it is the depths of our subconsciousness. There are a few ways to unlock your third eye chakra. One is simply just bringing your awareness to the point in between your eyes and feeling that muscle. Another is just placing your finger over it here to just help you get to that area. Or you can use lapis lazuli or another crystal that vibrates on the same frequency as your third eye chakra. And I would just place it here, but I'm literally just going to feel my chakra and see what comes to me, see what I need today. So I closed my eyes and waited patiently for something to come to light, in a form of any message, a word, an animal, or an image. And after a while I saw a flowing river in my mind's eye. I could have looked this up,
But really, I knew what my body was telling me. It wanted to flow and gain energy. It wanted to stretch and awaken. So I did a few gentle stretches for it to wake up, feeling my muscles relaxing, and I felt so much better for doing it all day. A few days later, I asked my intuition what it needed again.
Intuition, what do I need?
And as it was such a sunny day, you can tell where it led me, to this very present moment in time, to soak in the sun and enjoy a beautiful winter's walk, to appreciate the stillness of nature, the blue sky, and the little moments within the woods that were lit by the sun.
So along with working on this and inside myself and my needs, I want to work on what I look like. And I think that's really, really fun. I used to do something every single day in January. I wore black, completely black, to embrace my inner goth, of course. But also I said it was because I wanted to mourn the year before. And that does not sound like something I want to do anymore, if I'm honest. It's just a bit sad. For Christmas, I got this wonderful, lovely scarf from my second mum, Anne. So thank you, Anne, very much. It's so beautiful because it's gold and green and it has trees on it, and it's just the most enchanting thing ever. And it gave me such a good idea. This year I'm going to do an enchanted winter, and I've come up with so many different kind of styles that I'm so excited to show you now. Every single day during winter, I want to make myself look like I've come from a medieval roleplay game. So a lot of it is layering. I have a lot of polo neck shirts, which I have placed with a smaller top on front. On the bottoms, sometimes I have trousers, sometimes I have skirts, in particularly long skirts, and I pair this together with things like a corset or a belt, and overall I think it's a really great look, but looks that you can just mix and match with different polo neck shirts and different skirts and different dresses. Also, it just makes January and winter more fun, doing something that you're inspired by. And I just love dressing like a medieval person. It makes me happy. It just helps me embrace who I am.
Although my walk was lovely, I get a limited amount of them these days, as there are not enough daylight hours in the day, and in fact I haven't been able to go into the woods since, so ultimately I get a bit sad. But tonight I decided I just had to allow myself to embrace the indoors, and again ask my intuition what I needed to help myself. And it answered. A simple yet strong word. Love. Well, I decided to treat myself to a very special herbal bath to help unwind and relax with a primary ingredient, rosemary. Rosemary is a great cleansing herb. It helps us with aching muscles, detoxifies and cleanses our minds, ready to start afresh. I separated the sprigs from 2 rosemary stalks and placed them into a blender along with 2 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of Himalayan salt, and 2 tablespoons of olive oil, or as a substitute you could use grapeseed oil or avocado oil. After blending, I then ran the mixture through a piece of mesh and squeezed the mesh, getting out any excess liquid. To make my bath extra special, I tied the mesh into a small pouch with string and then tied rosemary pieces around the bag to make it extra special. I tied the bag onto the tap, so when water ran through it, the rosemary would permeate the water without any large bits floating in the tub. I surrounded myself with crystals of self-love and candles to help set a relaxing mood, and when I was ready, I poured in the herbal concoction. And it was the most amazing bath. It felt so luxurious and pampering. My skin never felt better afterwards. And knowing I had done this for myself to help my aching bones and tiredness, it made me feel proud and ready for more. After my bath, I leisurely strolled downstairs, and as well as looking after myself a lot more, I am taking care of my surroundings and making my home a sanctuary. And it still hasn't lost its sparkle from the festive season.
As you can see, I have left my Yule tree up. I haven't left all my decorations up. Many pagans still do and used to leave their trees up until Imbolc on the 2nd of February. I think it's such a great idea because for me, taking all my decorations down, there's an empty feeling there and I don't like it. And it just keeps that twinkle of magic alive, because why take something down that's so precious in the middle of winter? I still do love that spacious, clear feeling of January. And recently I have been organising all of my things. This is something I don't normally do in January, but the reason why was because my intuition showed me a seagull. Really strange, but I looked up what a seagull meant. One of the things was having a clear environment. So I've begun organising different drawers underneath things that have been cluttered for months, and it kind of mimics the trees in a way. The trees are bare because obviously we're in hibernation mode. We don't want a lot on our plate at the moment. We want to be happy, and I think cleaning my house has literally made me feel so much more pure and my head is clear, which is really, really nice. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is because we're spending so much more time indoors. Of course, naturally, we're going to acquire maybe new hobbies or things that we love to do inside. And one of the things I have started doing more of recently is cooking. Last week I made something that I've never made before, but it was just cozy and comforting and just had all the flavours of winter.
Hearty foods are very good for us in the winter. They give us strength and energy, and making food from scratch when we have time will hold the intention, the love and the passion we give it, making it extra special. And tonight I am making a mushroom and chestnut short crust pie. I cut slits in the chestnuts with a knife and place them onto a baking tray in the oven to soften. Whilst they cooked, I started on the pie filling. I cut up leeks into rounds, which will add a delicate onion undertone. These need to soften in a pan of melted butter. And placed with a lid on top to let them steam. I then cut up the mushrooms one by one, cutting the stalks off, leaving them whole for a nice mushroom flavour and texture. And once the leeks were gently softened, I added the mushrooms to the mixture. Making this pie is all about a slower pace, giving each ingredient its own time and energy as I place it within the pan. I often feel the world tells us that food needs to be cooked quickly, but during the winter, I want to make the most of the ingredients I can find from local farms to get my body onto the rhythm of the soil and the air around me. After it had cooked, I placed my mixture into a bed of short crust pastry and tucked both the top and bottom layer of pastry underneath together to join the seal. On top of this, I built up a picture of the moon and the stars to again honour this darkness and to show it the love it needs. When it was ready, I served the pie. I had this with greens and potatoes. And the verdict?
The pea.
Got mushrooms in, leeks in, and chestnuts. Do you like it then?
Yeah, it's a nice pastry.
Yeah.
It's a nice mushroom. It's a nice bit of roasted chestnut.
Mm-hmm. Put them all together.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah? Yay! And the pie was absolutely delicious. But what else? I'm honestly one of those people that used to feel guilty about not doing that much in January, but I don't feel guilty anymore. In fact, I embrace the fact that I don't do much at all. I love watching films and I love watching TV series too and reading books. I think it's so cozy and I love getting lost in a fantasy world, and I think that's pretty obvious if I'm honest. So I've written down some of my favourite TV shows and films for you. The first one will come as no surprise when I tell you it is The Lord of the Rings, but it is the extended editions. I think you should all watch the extended editions. You understand it a lot more, and Peter Jackson, his vision is just absolutely amazing. So I love watching all the behind the scenes of it too, and they're all on YouTube, and I highly recommend that too. Other films such as Harry Potter, that comes as no surprise. Love Harry Potter and rereading the books also. Frozen 2 was the most unpredicted favourite film of mine from last year. It incorporates the elements. There's like a mysterious mystery about the film, and it's just so beautiful. Really, if I like it, and that's saying something for me about Disney, I think you would definitely like it too. My favourite film is Ella Enchanted, and if you ever watch that, you will completely understand my style. I was completely inspired by that film. It's kind of like a teenage enchanted woodland vibe. It's very, very magical. It's kind of got like a Cinderella story vibe to it. So when I'm not watching a film, I'm watching a TV show. I love watching anything about nature, anything about the natural planet. I've just finished watching The Witcher, the second series. I loved it so much. It's kind of got like a mythical, magical feel to it. It's based on a PC game called The Witcher, so you can kind of very much see the role play aspect of that in the TV series. Basically, a witcher goes around to different towns. He does quests for coin. That's like long story short. Outlander is one of my favourite shows. It's set in Scotland. So basically a woman finds herself going back in time when she goes into this mysterious Scottish stone circle, and there she meets a Scottish clan, and it all kicks off. And lastly, Wheel of Time. Now this is something that I started watching a week ago or so, and all I'm going to say is if you like Lord of the Rings, you will absolutely love Wheel of Time. There's very similar aspects in there. That's all I'm going to say. You will absolutely love it. So I highly recommend that one. If you're not really a TV kind of person, you might find yourself reading a good book this winter, and there's nothing like snuggling up by the fire, or in my case the fake fire, with a book and just kind of getting lost in a fantasy world. Recently, I picked up this book. It is called Stories from Around the World, The Winter Tales. I love this because it's based on different folklores from around the world, and it just is a really, really beautiful book. Because this has been very, very highly requested, what I thought I could do for you now, considering it is at night time, we've had our lovely beautiful day, done so much stuff, I want to read you a story from this book, and it actually is in honour of the moon, which we are obviously embracing today and during this season. The story is called A Cloak for the Moon, and it is a Jewish folktale from Poland. Up in the sky, the moon was cold. She wished she had a winter cloak to wear. She dreamed of being wrapped up warm. All around the world, people were wrapped up against the weather. The moon looked down and saw grandmas in cosy shawls, the fine ladies in flowing coats and gloves of leather. She saw men with scarves pulled up over their mouths and hands thrusted deep into pockets. She saw children bundled up, round as bread rolls. Even the Arctic hare was wearing her white winter coat. Up in the sky, the moon dreamed of a warm cloak. But down on Earth, the scientists said, impossible, it can't be done, because of course the moon is always changing. Sometimes she's a slender curve, sometimes she's round and full. How could anyone possibly make a cloak to fit her? But there was one young man, a tailor, who loved the moon. He loved her radiance, her mystery, her magic. I'll do it, he said. I'll try. So the tailor went to an ancient library. He found an old book. With the tips of his fingers, he traced the curls on the leather cover. He blew off a cloud of dust and opened the pages. The faded paper smelt of long ago. His finger followed the trails of rich brown ink, and he discovered that once upon a time, in the kingdom on the roof of the world, a way had been found to weave cloth from light. Just right. Without another word, the tailor set off. He travelled over vast stony plains, through cities built of sand-coloured stone, and valleys where long-horned yaks roamed, until at last he came to the roof of the world. There, outside the doorway of her little wooden house, an old woman sat spinning in the sunshine. "Is that thread spun from light?" asked the tailor. The old woman laughed, a dry leaf laugh. "No, no, that art was lost long ago. The last piece of the cloth of light is kept up in that temple." The woman pointed to a mountain far away in the distance. The shadow of a temple was just visible at the top. So the tailor scrambled up the mountain and pushed open the temple's heavy oak door. Inside, in the lamp-lit gloom, the tailor could hear the monks chanting. and he peered through clouds of incense smoke. At the back of the temple was a room painted with scrolling patterns of copper green and blue, vermilion and gold, and in the middle of the room was a great wooden trunk. The tailor knelt before the trunk. With trembling hands, he lifted the lid. Inside was a scrap of fabric, no bigger than his hand. It was too small to make a cloak for a mouse, let alone a cloak for the moon. Exhausted, he slumped down with the tatter of cloth in his hand and cried. He cried for his long journey, his wasted time, his broken dream. He cried and he cried until he fell asleep. He dreamed. He was curled inside a cocoon, like a caterpillar, and he was pulling a thread from his own body. And then he woke. There was something as fine as silk lying on his lap. The fabric had grown. He looked up and saw the moon through the temple window. She was shining, her light, on the cloth, and the more the moon shone, the bigger the cloth grew. The tailor smiled to himself. He took out his sharp scissors and his needle and thread, and he began to snip and stitch and sew, just as the tailor had dreamed. He made a cloak for the moon, as light as the clouds and as bright as the stars. High in the sky, the moon slipped on her new cloak. It was soft and snug, warm and wonderful. On winter nights, the moon still wears her mist-white, star-bright cloak, and oh, how she glows. The tailor lay bathed in moonlight and felt glad inside. He had helped the moon to shine her brightest, just as we all do when we follow our dreams. Thank you for watching, Enchanted Ones, and I wish you a good night.